What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another stand-up comedy review. Today we are taking on the famous, the trending Mark Normand. He has a new stand-up special on Netflix called Soup to Nuts, and I'm just going to jump right into it. Mark Normand's special is not going to take long to review. If you know who Mark Normand is, you know his style. You know his obvious reference to Kevin Hart. You know kind of his one-liner quips that he's pretty commonly throwing out on his multiple podcasts that he usually appears on, which are his own shows, and then he's doing the circuit right now. So again, if you're familiar with Mark Normand, you know his comedy. He's very vulgar. He says very sexually crude things, and he says very politically incorrect things. Let's just jump right into it. So first thing, Mark Normand has always been a guy that I like. I like him when he shows up on a podcast, and the few times I've seen his stand-up, it was always a bit too set-up punchline for me, where my style of comedy that I like the storytellers with good transitions, like Bill Burr is my favorite. This one immediately starts, and I'm watching Mark Normand get into his bit, and I'm going, okay, he's still doing setup, punchline, but now he's so quick with it, you don't even realize that he's not transitioning, that he's just jumping from joke to joke to joke to joke to joke. And he has gotten a little better with like kind of keeping some of his jokes in a cluster of topics. But I really appreciated this special out of Mark Normand. I think the way he says such, obviously politically incorrect things, I think he's taken these jokes around the country enough before filming this special that he knew the general tone of people before saying a lot of the things he was saying, because obviously he goes hard at trans people, he goes hard at black people, Jewish people. I mean, he goes at pretty much everyone, women, men, gay people, straight people. I mean, he goes at everyone. And again, the way he jokes is by the end of it, you're so aware that he's not saying anything mean or wrong. He's going, this is a joke. Ah. And again, a lot of Mark Normand's kind of shtick is he's like, I'm an asshole. It's me. And that gets him away with a lot of stuff. I'm really surprised that Netflix let a lot of these jokes run. There was a lot of things about like special needs people, which again, Netflix has always been pretty good about letting comedians do their thing without censoring them. So I appreciate that. Where would I rate this special out of comedy specials? If I was going 1 to 5, I would give Normand a 4 on this one. I'm very used to Mark Normand. I like his style of comedy, but once you've seen it, it's funny that he references Kevin Hart, because it's kind of the same thing, where once you've seen his comedy, you get it. You know what it's going to be. With Kevin Hart, he's short, whatever. He's going to make fun of his kids. There's going to be stories about his dad, and there's going to be like a one-liner that he wants you to take home, like, all right. You know what to expect from Kevin Hart. Bill Burr, he's a storyteller, so he's telling stories about just his observations in life. Mark Normand is a self-admitted huge fan of Jerry Seinfeld, who is, what's the deal with, payphones? What's the deal with airports and stuff like that? So you can kind of tell that Mark Normand has taken a little bit of Seinfeld with the what's the deal with all these things that I see that don't make sense, which is the nature of comedy. Here's the world. I don't understand it, so here's why I think things are funny. And again, I think a 45-minute special was probably perfect. I started to kind of lose interest, and I hate saying that, but I started to lose interest about 20 minutes in, where I'm like, yeah, no, I get it. And again, some of them are so rapid fire that you're going, yeah, okay. I'm still kind of trying to process the last joke while I'm getting into this one. Oh, that one's, big and vulgar too. Like, there was one that he made a joke about 9/11, and I was kind of like, my first thought in my head was, first off, man, I hope you're not friends with Pete Davidson, and then 2, am I just getting too sensitive for comedy? Because things don't offend me, and I don't get, triggered or anything like that, but I'm also someone that shock and awe kind of stuff isn't the hook that I'm gonna bite. I don't get shocked. Okay, yeah, you said some crazy shit about this or that or this. And if it's just 45 minutes of you saying the most heinous shit you can come up with, where in a way Anthony Jeselnik does that, but Anthony Jeselnik is kind of a bait and switcher where he's not just going, here's some vulgar stuff to say, and here's the most jacked up way I could say it. Anthony Jeselnik kind of mixes like a Tosh.0 where Daniel Tosh, where he's setting you up to think the story is going one way, bang, so he can turn it on its head, and then you're going, oh my God, I can't believe I fell for that, and I let him say this incredibly jacked up thing that he's now saying. Mark Normand's is very rapid fire. Hey, these people are weird. This is why. Oh, I suck. Oh, comedy, and like, again, some of it is very awkward and some of his stuff is very clunky, but to get back to the good side of it, this one felt very polished. This special felt like Mark Normand really took his time. You could tell he toured this a lot. You could tell he got some good, it looked like he had some writing help from what I saw on the credits. And again, I thought a lot of these jokes were very, I'll say, matured in the way of the joke was allowed to mature. You could tell some of those were like deep thinkers where you're like, oh, okay, that was good. That one was good. Whoever came up with that one was good. So is it worth the watch? Yes. Can you watch it with everyone? Absolutely not. That's the hard thing about recommending some comedy specials, is you have to understand people's taste before you recommend something to someone. Is John Mulaney safe for most people? Yeah. Is Bill Burr? No. So Mark Normand, you can't really recommend him to people unless you know that their style of comedy can go very dark and very inappropriate. I thought it was good. I thought it was a good outing for Normand. I hope that it sets him up for bigger things. Seems like he's one of the last few comedians that's just really waiting to pop in the big Hollywood circuit of things, where Andrew Santino's on a bunch of stuff, Chris DiStefano's starting to do a bunch of stuff. All these guys are really starting to pick up steam. Andrew Schultz is, doing big things. He's doing movies. And Mark Normand's kind of just sitting right there. He's got the talent, but I'm curious if his style of comedy is what's keeping him from hitting that next level. This set felt very much like something you would see on a late night show, just extended out to 45 minutes, which, again, that's not a criticism. That's a good thing. I think he wants to be that. I think Normand's in his late 30s, early 40s. So he's a part of that comedy scene where getting on the Late Show is a big deal. Getting seen by an agent and getting put on a TV show, like, that's kind of their thing. And I think he just understood that was not going to be his route because of the type of comedy he does. So now I think you're just seeing, hey, this is the best I have. I'm meshing the professional style of kind of Jerry Seinfeld and gearing my set towards like a Late Show, but also saying these crazy things that most people would never allow you to say on any platform. And so, but again, then he's turning it on its side at the very end and going, but that's jacked up, right? Like, everyone's thinking this, but it's jacked up, right? Oh, well, who's really wrong here? Am I wrong for thinking this when everyone thinks that? And, he's kind of putting you in the shoes to be wrong with him, or agree that what he's saying is so jacked up that it is funny that so many of us play into these. That's about as most extended as I could make this review. I think Mark Normand did a great job. Very, very happy for his outing on this one. I will say Netflix is hiding it. They're not throwing it up on the main screens. I watch a lot of comedy, and I literally had to type in Mark space Norm before it even popped up. So if you're searching for it, it's on Netflix. You might just actually have to physically go search for it. Mark Normand, soup to nuts. He did a great job. If vulgar stand-up is your thing and inappropriate stand-up is your thing, this is the one for you. Love you guys. See you in the next one.